We're supposed to go to work now? Sorry.
Are you good, Mike? Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach Brennan and we'll take questions.
All right. Appreciate y'all being here. Obviously coming off a really, really hard-fought game on Saturday night. Like I said, I give credit to Coach Sataki and BYU. They made the plays they had to make to win the game, and we were devastated, and we still are. And I think that's one of those things that it gives us a chance. Like the only thing we can do is go to work and learn from it, and learn what we didn't get done and what we have to do in those moments to give ourselves a chance for the outcomes we want. So I'm not spending any time looking backwards. I'm about moving forward. Moving forward with this team. We know that we're going into Houston. We're playing a very good football team. They're very well coached. Coach Fritz does an outstanding job. They're 5-1. They're playing with a lot of confidence. Their offense has moved the ball against everyone they've played. The QB is a dual threat guy. He's talented. He can make throws. I'd expect we'll see some quarterback run game after the other night. And then defensively, they're really multiple. They've got a really active defensive front. You can tell they're well coached. And so we got a lot of respect for these guys. And so this is a huge week for us. This is a huge opportunity for us to aggressively attack the work, give ourselves a chance to play the kind of football we believe we're capable of playing, and to go and play in a tough environment against a good football team on the road.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with Justin and then Michael.
So there's been just a lot of conversation since the game ended about the 19 seconds and taking a knee. Hindsight, do you still stand by your decision? How do you look back at that?
I do, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I've been extremely aggressive this year on fourth down, and I was extremely aggressive on Saturday night. We went for it on fourth down 6 times, and we converted 4 of them, right? To me, in that situation, you're playing against an excellent defense with an active front, okay? They're going to play some sort of big coverage, which is going to make it challenging to throw the football. And their kicker has already hit from 60 this year. Their kicker is a surefire NFL Tyler Loop type guy. And so to me, I felt like we were playing with confidence. I liked the way our defense was playing. I just said, let's go win it in overtime. Let's not let there be an opportunity for that. And so that was and I think it's complicated because I know there's people that are pissed off that I went for on a fourth down in the third quarter, and then they're mad I didn't there. I'm like, every situation is different, and we have to make those decisions in a really short time frame. But I felt good about that decision at the time, and I felt like going into overtime, when we scored the touchdown, I thought that was it. Now it got called back, but I thought that was I was like, okay, we got it. And obviously it didn't turn out that way, but that's how I felt about the time. And that's why I made the decision I made.
Michael and then Troy.
One follow-up on that. The process of making that call, is that a discussion that is had over the headset with Seth?
Yeah, it's with Seth. It's with Seth and Danny on the headset, just talking through it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what do you think we'll get here? What do you think? And so those conversations happen all game. I think we have great communication with our staff. I think we have great alignment, and we were all on the same page with how we were going to move forward right there.
Troy and then Brian.
Kind of going to 2 decision makings. I think it was the third down right before BYU tied it. That's where you guys kicked the football there. How do you think Noah handled that situation, making the read? What would you like to see during that? It's a third down before you punt it back to BYU.
Yep.
When they tied the game up. But that third down play, just that play and how that all went down.
Yes. So on second down, so we knew we had to run it, right? And so we ran on second down. We ran against a light box, and we just didn't block it well enough. And so that for the first time all night, we were trying to get into a situation where we were running into a box where the numbers were fair. We finally got it, and we just didn't block it well enough. And so then on third down, we're like, okay, let's throw for it. Let's put the ball in Noah's hands and let him throw for it. And we got beat on a stunt, interior stunt. They did a good job executing it. KD, who's one of our best linemen, that thing came across his face, and all of a sudden he had pressure. Noah had people on top of him, and he had to get out. And so then when he did, I would have preferred that he'd just run it and force BYU to burn a timeout there, right? But he's also trying to make a play. And so I understand that too, because we've also seen the magic of Noah when he's off schedule.
Brian and Jason.
When you were looking for an offensive coordinator, you had certain criteria that you mentioned to us and presumably found that with Seth. 6 games in, do you feel that you're getting from your offensive coordinator what you were looking for in terms of play calling and scheme and all that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Coach Daggy has been an awesome addition to our program. His leadership, his play calling, his organization. I understand everyone's upset about Saturday night. I also know that we had 400 yards of offense and scored 27 points against the 8th ranked defense in the country that had been previously given up 12. You know what I mean? So I believe in it, and I believe in his play calling, and I think we're just going to continue to get better. We're in the first year of this thing, right? And it's going to keep getting better as we continue to progress.
Jason and David.
There were a couple times on Saturday where it just felt again that the receivers weren't making plays that maybe even the last play of the game, maybe Wally should have caught that. How do you kind of get through to them a little bit? Like, what do you think is the biggest issue facing the receivers right now?
No, I think, Nunu is one of those kids who's just so competitive, and no one wants to make that play more than he does. You know what I mean? And so I think that part of it is with those guys, that's a talented group. They have made plays for us this year, right? And I think Bobby Wade does an incredible job of coaching that group. And so that's when we have an opportunity to make the plays in the pass game, you have to make them. I mean, that's the nature of that position. And I was encouraged because I felt like we had the best game out of Chris Hudson that we've had all year. And that was improvement. I feel like he's healthy. He's starting to see his speed again, his playmaking, and that was encouraging. And so I still have a lot of confidence in that group. Those kids are good players, and they're busting their ass, and you dropped the ball, and you wish you would have finished it.
David and then Justin.
Brent, after the game, you talked about, in terms of the 4th down calls, you talked about feel and analytics. What's the analytics piece of that? Is that you guys have your own specific analytics that you come up with, or is that just like maybe the general analytics that most coaches use?
So we work with a company that just goes deep into the math of all that stuff, and the analytics thing is an interesting thing. I think it's a good tool. It's not something that we would like live and die with every single day. Some people do, right? And if it works, everyone's like, oh, the analytics are so great. And if it doesn't, everyone's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So there's so many moments in every football game that come down to the backside of it is like whether it worked or not. Whether you trusted your gut, you trusted a play call, you trusted a player, or you trusted the analytics. And if it works, you're like, oh, thank God they put the ball in his hand. If it works, oh, thank God they trusted the analytics, whatever it was. If it doesn't work, it's like, oh, well, why'd they do that? So I think there's always part of that with football games, and that's fine. That's, like we understand that. But we feel good about our decision-making about how we're going about those situations in game.
Justin and Troy.
So now that you guys are going to Houston, I'm just wondering, now that you've been in this role, what have you learned about the Houston area, just in terms of recruiting and the talent level that's coming?
No, it's impressive. I had to actually, when I was coaching Oregon State, I had to go recruit down there quite a bit. And so, I've spent a good amount of time, in Houston and Central Texas. But yeah, that's one of those things about that place is that it is good for them. They do have good proximity talent. But I think it's also good for us and other schools in the Big 12 because we know we're going to be going to Texas to play games, right? And so I think from the recruiting part of it, a lot of those kids are interested in maybe living somewhere else, being somewhere new, or they like a different staff, or they're interested in something different, knowing that they're going to play games in the state of Texas, I think gives us a good chance to recruit all those areas there.
Troy and Michael.
One thing that you talked about at the beginning of the year was not letting losses just like Saturday snowball and how you felt. Last year it kind of did that to effect. What do you want to see from your team in this week to not have that happen, not have that snowball effect?
Well, I think the good thing is that we saw that not happen after Iowa State, right? And so, the important thing to me is how we show up tomorrow, right? Today's a player's day off, right? And really just, do we have guys trickling in today looking for extra opportunities to improve and get better on their own? You know what I mean? But tomorrow, how we show up, what kind of energy do we show up with that meeting, right? Have we put that BYU thing behind us, and are we ready to attack this next opportunity or not? And I'm confident in this team. I love how we're playing. I love the effort, the intensity, how tough our kids are, how we responded the other night. But just like you guys, just like everybody else in Wildcat Nation, I'm pissed off we didn't get it done. But we don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves about how that ended, because we have an incredible challenge this week, and it's on us. And so we have to go work attacking this next thing.
Michael and David.
You guys won that game at Utah last year, and I think that was the last road game that you have won, and a lot of those scores weren't that close. What do you think you need to bring to the table on Saturday for the outcome to be different? And what is it maybe that's unique about the road experience that's different from home?
I think there's lots of things about, every road trip is different. I think for a lot of us, players, coaches, a lot of us haven't played in all these venues in the new Big 12. So that's it's the first time I've ever been to Iowa State. This will be the first time I've ever been to Houston, right? But, we do have Coach Niver on staff, and he coached there, so he can tell us where the good barbecue joints are in town. But I think the biggest thing is we just have to not turn the ball over. Let's start with that. It sounds so simple, you know what I mean? And I think that was the thing at Iowa State that really hurt us. And we came out of that game saying we had to win the turnover battle, and we turned the ball over 4 times. And so against a really good team on the road, that's really, really hard to overcome.
David and Jason.
Coach, I asked you last week just about the running back rotation. Now that you got all 3 of those guys healthy this weekend against BYU, Quincy got a little bit more run than the other 2. How much of that is scheme, depending on who might get more plays week to week in that room?
Yeah, so that rotation ends up being a little bit also just like how much pounding somebody's taking. So that's like almost like, hey, let's get the next guy in there. The great thing is that you need multiple running backs that can really do the job and make plays. And all 3 of those guys have demonstrated that they can. Right? So that part's exciting for us because it is important to have guys that are fresh in the game. Right? And then also the amount of pounding that position takes, whether it's from carrying the football or it's in pass protection. Right? Like those guys take a lot of shots. And so you want to make sure that you have as many, like those guys are as fresh as they can be. And so sometimes that's in the middle of a drive. You know what I mean? And we tell those players to tell us when you need to take out, because we don't want the player to make the selfish decision to stay in the game if he's not at his best, right? If he's just got the wind knocked out of him, or if he's gassed from the previous 8 plays. Let's give somebody else in there and let them help us do the job.
Jason and Justin.
The game will be kicking off at 9 a.m. Tucson time. Does that change anything with your approach or anything like that?
The only difference is that we're going to practice Thursday morning, which, all season we've been practicing Thursday night because we play so many night games. And because we're going on the road. But, I think for our team and for our program, right, like that's the time of day we practice every day. So I like it in terms of what the players are used to, their body clocks, like all that stuff. I think that's a positive.
Finish with Justin and then Michael.
So Kendrick Reeson was also a Houston native, got really going in that game against BYU. What does he add when he's healthy, and what did you think about what he showed on Saturday?
No, I thought it was great. It was great to see him get going. He's obviously a guy that's been dinged up a little bit in the last 5 weeks. And so it was great to get him back and great to see him run with that confidence and physicality that we know he's capable of.
Finish up with Michael.
They have some really big physical receivers. Amari Thomas being one, the tight end, Ozil 6'7", 250. How do you size up those matchups, and how do you defend guys like that?
Well, I think that's you're always going to have matchups like that in most every game, right? The kid we played last week was 6'5", 215 pounds. You know what I mean? So I have a lot of confidence in that secondary group. I think they're playing good football. And I know it's a challenge, but you're playing big-time college football. This is the Big 12. You're going to play against good receivers. You're going to have to defend good people, right? And so that's what it is week in and week out. But, in terms of Michael and MGK and Javion, like in AG, I think those guys are fighting their tails off, and you see how competitive they are.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
All right, bear down.